I'm filling in for Bert, who went in the hospital a couple days ago and apparently passed away this morning. So we needed a program, and I had this one lined up. I presented this back in August for the Terminal Railroad Society. About 3 or 4 of you were there in attendance, so it should be new for the rest of you. Part-time job, I've worked down at St. Louis Union Station since 2015. They run excursion trains out of there, and they run the Polar Express in the wintertime. So we're going to do a program about the trains that have run at St. Louis Union Station since 2014, when LHM Properties took over the hotel and operations there. There we go. So there's St. Louis Union Station, LHM, which stands for Lodging and Hospitality Management, which owns a lot of the hotels in the St. Louis area. And then, you know, we had our joint convention there back in 2021. Obviously, we could go into a whole history of St. Louis Union Station, but I'm not going to do that today. I did that at the last convention. So anyway, so they purchased the property for $20 million. And they have spent a lot of time fixing up the building. They put in something like $60 million into the restoration of the property. You know, it's a huge property, so they were looking for other avenues as far as how to monetize the property. So they put in the aquarium, they've put in some other attractions, rope course, the wheel. And then they still wanted to keep the history of the railroad alive, so they have kept the tracks there, and they've purchased some rail cars, and they are running operations. So they do, you know, we've used it for, but anyway, back to 2013, I'm also with the St. Louis NRHS, National Railway Historical Society. They contacted our group for ideas for what to do with the property as far as the rail. They had ideas for running excursions out of there. You know, they thought about setting up museum displays on the property, having sleeping cars for people to stay in, dinner train, things of that nature. You know, they had a lot of big thoughts. They didn't really understand the railroad industry. They didn't understand Amtrak. They didn't understand a lot of things. So, you know, we talked about a lot of different things. They did purchase, let's see, they purchased their first rail car in 2013. Anyway, not the one, no. So the first private car to actually arrive on the property was that one. That was just visiting. That was not one that they purchased, but that was the first train to be on the property since they purchased it. The prior owner was a Marriott property, and they did not allow any trains on the tracks for the time that Marriott owned it. So the first big thing that they had down there was December 14th of 2013. KCS brought in their Christmas train and their executive train. So they had a huge turnout of people that came out. It was freezing cold the day they had that on display. But they had a line of people standing wrapped around the parking lot to see this thing. So, I mean, there's a few pictures of the KCS train. So moving up to 2014, they ran their first excursion out of there, which was an operation that was run for the Illinois Rivers Ports and Terminals. So up the river is the Port Harbor Railroad. So we took the Terminal Railroad up to the Port Harbor. Once we arrived at the Port Harbor Railroad, we switched engines to the Respondeck engine here, toured their property. They had 3 private cars on the train. So there were a couple of us that worked it. It was a good event. First time I got to ride around it, it was cool. Moving up to May of 2014, they decided to celebrate National Train Day there. And so most of the railroads brought in equipment for display. UP brought in the Katy and the Mopac engines. I don't have a picture of the Mopac there. But Amtrak had their exhibit train there. Terminal had stuff on display. Norfolk Southern had stuff on display. Let's see, these are exhibits of some of the stuff going on. They had stuff for kids outside. Several of the railroad groups in the St. Louis area, Wabash, Mopac, there's Railway Locomotive Historical Society were there. There's Cliff. He was there. You were with Operation Lifesaver. Some model train displays were there in the midway. So that was a fun event. Okay, so moving up, they operate their first Polar Express. I did not work the first year Polar Express, but that's a first layout of the cars. I don't know, Bill or Tom, you were there the first year. I don't know if you could say a little more than I was. There's a couple of us here who also worked this. I believe it was a 6-car train, and basically they had to figure out how to run the Polar Express that year. But as far as the operation, but here's the layout they gave as far as which cars were there. And that's the original 6 guys that worked the train. Yeah, so Bill, I guess you were the only one there then. So, who's actually here today? So that's the original, they gave us the title of car captains. We were basically in charge of operations, safety of the train, getting passengers on and off, things of that nature. So a couple of pictures of the train from 2014. The train is pulled by the Terminal Railroad. So, you know, the entire train is run by paid staff. They hire professional actors to be the conductors, the chefs, the hero boy, all that. So this is the ADA ramp to get on. Just a couple of pictures here. Actually, it was a fairly consistent looking contest with the silver and red. It actually looked pretty good that year. There's Santa standing out in the rain one night. So the train takes you up to the North Pole. You see Santa, all that good stuff. That's actually my kids there. But yeah, I mean, the actors dance around, do all that stuff, so it's a fun event. There was actually a wedding down there that year, so the wedding party came over and got pictures with the actors and stuff. So, moving up to 2015, they decided to try running some cars behind Amtrak up to Chicago. So that's a picture of one of the cars. Oh no, that's the first car they purchased there. Southern Hospitality, former UP Dome car. So October of that year, they decided to also try doing the pumpkin peanuts train, which is another thing Rail Events offers. They only did that the 1 year. They just decided it was too much to do both the peanuts train and the Polar Express in the same year. But they had characters dressed up like the Peanuts, and they had actors doing things and stuff. They had a pumpkin patch and other activities around the station for people. That one, instead of going up to where the North Pole is, north of downtown, that actually ran out on the MacArthur Bridge, stopped on the bridge, and then came back. Apparently some people didn't like the idea of going out on the bridge and stopping. It scared them. Other people thought it was really cool, so, you know. So some of these photos are ones that I pulled off the internet, you know, so that was a picture of the consist of the train. The actors, I guess they were stretching before performing there or something. I don't really know what they were doing. They do strange things. If you don't know actors, they're their own thing. So come November 2015, Union Station purchases 4 cars from Quad Graphics, which was the publishing company for Kalmbach. They had 4 private cars, very deluxe, very nice cars. They were, you know, thinking of using these for excursions and things of that nature. I don't have the history of the cars with me, but there were 4 cars they purchased. They purchased baggage dorm here, and then this one, is that, which one's that, the sleeper? Yeah. Silver Lodge, yeah, okay.
Silver Lodge.
So, Silver Lodge, Silver Express, Silver Shore, and Silver Chalet, which is a former Zephyr, what was it, a sleeper?
No, it's a dome.
Dome, no, it's a dome, but it was modified with that round end. It was not a round end originally, yeah.
I believe it was a dormitory car.
It was a Western Pacific, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't originally a round end, they added this to it, so. But they're all first class cars. As you can see, that's the inside of them. This was fixed up for our wedding that day, so You know, they do private events on these cars for different things, different groups. So 2015, they run the Polar Express again. That was the first year I actually worked Polar. So that year we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars, plus the power car. So I mean, again, it's the same thing. The North Pole changes a little bit every year. The actors change, etc. So there's some of the car captains. You get interesting things that happen. Here's a case of somebody decided to park too close to the train, and the car had to be moved before we could pull out. Every year there's 1 or 2 incidents of interesting things that happen. This happened to be, you know, I believe it was probably a hockey game that night, and people were parking too close to the track. That's, yeah. 2015, the KCS Christmas train came in again, but they couldn't really pull it into the station because we were running Polar Express, but the executive train was there. They kind of showed up unannounced and didn't tell anybody they were coming, so. Anyway, that's probably most of the cast that year of the train. That's the North Pole with the Santa. Okay, so that was the year that we also had the flood. So towards late December, the tunnels under the arch flooded and we had to cancel the last 4 nights of the runs. The yard there was totally flooded. You can see the Eads Bridge here, water's very high, so we had to cancel the last 4 runs. They ended up doing makeup runs at the end of January, which was a little odd to be doing Santa Claus the end of January. Didn't have a great turnout. Most people requested refunds, but we did run it anyway. Some people showed up. There was interesting things. For about like 2 years, there was this pony inside the tunnel of the arch, under the arch. We threw cookies to him once in a while. I think he disappeared in the flood maybe, but there's a Herbie that's drawn there on one of the tunnels. It's still there. 2016. So they run VIP trains, which are just a loop around the terminal railroad, similar to the convention train we did in 21 for the people who were on that. This is a rather large VIP train. They don't normally have that many cars on them. Coming off the MacArthur Bridge. 2016, they decided, yeah, we don't need to pay rail events for doing Polar Express. We can do it ourselves. It didn't work out too good for them, but they decided to really cut back on everything. And then they're like, oh, kids want Santa Claus. Now we got to add Santa Clauses. They didn't hire them at the beginning of the year. We're not doing cookies. Oh, we need to do cookies. It was interesting. Every week you showed up, it was something different. So, but anyway, it was a different story. They did the night before Christmas instead of Polar Express. So there's the consist of the train there. So a few pictures from that year. Some of the cars decorated on the inside. You know, we had Elfish.
Nothing says Christmas like Elvis.
Elfish.
Oh, Elfish.
Elfish. They also had the inside of the station decorated with a lot of stuff. I don't know where they got the bowling pins, but they had them. You know, you can see the conductors were dressed with polka dots and things like that. So.
Hall of Fame is in St. Louis.
It was. Anyway, yeah. So, oh, okay, so I wasn't working that night. The incident, big one that year was the track froze, they had a broken rail, they had to fix that. And then the other interesting thing was a car managed to drive up the ramp of the MacArthur Bridge and proceeded to fall off the bridge onto the highway. So the train's coming along. I wasn't there, I'm just telling the story, but firemen are out there waving at the train. They stopped the train. You can't cross the bridge. Why not? We got right away. Well, the car just drove up there. We don't think the bridge is safe. So they had to get track inspectors out there, and, you know, apparently it was a long night, delayed the train. 2017. So here's just a shot of the landing from one of the VIP trains they ran in March. And I mean, the VIP trains can be some kind of tourism group or some group having an event at the station or somewhere in downtown. Anybody can charter a train for anything, weddings, things like that. So I don't have really all the details on what all of them are. So here's where they try to do a couple trips up to Chicago. I haven't done any of those, but that's Cameron there. He's in charge of the operation, all the events and entertainment down at Union Station. So they took the, I believe the 2 dome cars up to Chicago. Yeah. Whoop. Here's another VIP trip with 2 domes in the power car. Couple of shots. Here's another trip that they did. They did a Christmas shopping trip up to Chicago that year. So they took the domes up to Chicago again. A couple more shots of the inside of the train. There it is up at Chicago. So 2017 Polar Express. We had, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We had 10 cars back then. So just, you know, some more shots of the actors and stuff like that, riding the train. This was, before every night, we have a safety meeting with the car captains. This was the car that we met in at the time, which was one of the diners. Now we meet in the baggage dorm. I try to get a picture with Santa every year. 2018, that was a February VIP trip that they did. And sometimes they set the cars up with buffets and food and bars and, you know, things of that nature. They can do a lot of different types of events on the train. Sometimes they just do stationary events in the station with the train cars. But, you know, they can decorate them a lot of different ways. So some shots taken from the east side over on one of the VIP trips. That's the crew that worked that night. Bill, there you are. Okay, 2018, the RNLHS had their convention in St. Louis and ran an event train, or train for the people at the RNLHS convention, which was also joined with the NRHS. One of the coaches was rented just by the NRHS chapter in St. Louis. The rest of the train was for the RNLHS convention. Fortunately, I happened to meet with a local rail fan for the first time. Will Rasmussen happened to be down there with his kids. They were about this big. He's like, is this train going somewhere today? Yeah. Where's it going? So I told him, I'm going to go take some pictures. Here's my card. Send me some. So that's a good shot he got going down the Wiggins line. That's a nice one. So he took all these outside shots. We don't often get good pictures from the outside that people send us, so it was kind of nice. Usually we're working it and can only get pictures from the train. Here was a wedding. I didn't work that. Apparently they had to reverse the route. Normally we go over MacArthur. This one they took up to Merchants because the wedding had to be performed in Missouri before it crossed the river. But yeah, you can see they got chairs set up in the baggage car for the wedding. And I guess that was another Chicago trip they were in. That's Cameron again. So here's the 2 dome cars up at Chicago. Yeah, that's Bloomington Normal. October 2018, another VIP trip. Moving up 2018 Polar Express. We have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, we were on 10 cars back then as well. That was before they shortened the tracks to put in the wheel when we could fit 10 cars, although we're going back to 10 cars this year. We'll see how that works. You know, the actors like to have some fun. Stack up those are actually empties that are zip tied together. Those aren't actually full of hot chocolate, but it makes a fun prop for dancing. That was also the year we added the drum head to the back. Louie the Bluey decided to come down for an event. I believe that was for a, what's the foundation for the kid? Make-A-Wish. That was a Make-A-Wish kid thing. So, some of the car captains, you know, you don't always work in good weather, so there's our boss, Rick, all dressed up for the rain. There's some snow. Nice shot somebody sent in going through the North Pole. Coming under the Eads Bridge. Santa at the North Pole. The mugs. For some reason we had different power that night. Here was interesting, coming through the yard. Somebody got a little lost and started driving between the tracks and got stuck in the yard. So we had to stop and then go through very slowly. Might have been alcohol involved, I'm not sure. Don't park there, I don't recommend it. Like I said, you know, some nights are interesting. Here's the 2009 layout, or 2019, I'm sorry. So that was the year the wheel opened, so they shortened the tracks that year by 2 car lengths. So now the wheel's operating, makes a nice pretty picture. A lot of different leased cars were used that year. Some former Iowa Pacific cars, former Saratoga North Creek cars. You know, the actors do a little skit before the train starts. They read from the book, all that stuff. The mugs, the North Pole, actors having fun. That's what they do. A couple of shots in the snow. I guess some carolers dressed as Santa Clauses came down that night just to sing at the train. I don't know. People show up and do weird things down there. So, we blew up our generator car one day. So, they had to pull in bring in a rental generator, which stuck out both sides of the power car. There was room to fit this thing in there, but the doors hanging out. We didn't think we were going to get the first train out on time that day. I think we left 5 minutes late. So, I mean, they found out in the morning that the generator was dead. They managed to get the rental unit installed and running. We were talking the first run was going to be stationary in the station, but we managed to get it out. So we ran the rest of the year with the portable generator. Nice little shot coming under the arch. I actually saw this photo for the first time up at the Day for the Archives thing this year up in Naperville. One of the guys doing the program up there, this photo popped up, and I'm like, hey, need a copy of that. He was actually doing a demonstration on using strobe lights. So I think he takes a lot of shots up at IRM in the Chicago area, but he happened to be in St. Louis this time and took this. Dave was nice enough to send me the photo. 2020, COVID. They did a Halloween train that was just stationary in the station. I don't have any pictures of that. They did a Polar Express that was stationary in the station where people walked through, social distance through the train, followed by a cleaning crew after each group that went through. I didn't go down there and see it personally, but I managed to find a couple pictures of it. So these are the insides of the train cars they had decorated for people to walk through. So 2021, we need a new power car because we blew up our power car in 2019. So they took a former Amtrak express car and turned it into a power car. These are some pictures of it when it was under construction. There's the picture of it when it's done. Its first trip was literally our convention train. It arrived at the station about 2 days before our convention. It managed to get tagged on its way to Union Station. And they did get the graffiti off before our run. So yeah, that was our convention train in 2021. So probably a lot of you were on it, probably not all, but we actually got to see one of the riverboats. That was nice. Don't have a lot of photos of it, but there it is. 2021 Polar Express. Here's our lineup here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 cars. Just a few shots of the train. We did have to wear masks that year on the train. Unless you were off the train, you didn't have to, but if you were on the train, you had to have a mask on. Nice foggy shot of the arch there. This was another car on the tracks in the yard. Okay. So we're coming back, and there's all this going on here, and this car is actually stuck on the tracks. So we had to wait for the tow truck to show up and drag his sorry butt off the tracks, and pretty much ripped his car about in half doing so. That delayed the train about an hour, unfortunately, but that was a late night. But, there's always something fun every year. 2022, there's the consist. Nice aerial drone shot of the train pulling out into the highway there. Found that on the internet. Dave, I put that one in there for you. So this program is one slide different than the last time I did it, just for Dave. That's actually the terminal crew. A couple of their crew like to dress up for the event, so that was the engineer, Pam, and the conductor. Some of the actors and stuff, they've made the stage layout a little bit different that year. Good snowy night, going through Amtrak.
That's a cool shot.
Okay, that was the night. It was minus 20 to 30 degrees below zero. I had to work both of those nights. The first night was actually fun because almost nobody showed up. Everything in St. Louis was canceled except Polar Express. We don't stop for anything. We don't? Okay, I'll come down. The only reason I worked that night was because other people didn't want to show up and I was off work, so it was a damn cold night.
Did any cars drive on the track that night?
Do what?
Did any cars drive on the track that night?
We're getting to that. Actually, that's the next night. So, equipment does not work very well when it's that cold. But yeah, the first night was kind of a light crowd. The second night, broken rail. God bless the terminal crew. They are out there in that weather fixing that track for us, and they stop and wave at the train as it goes by. I mean, that's dedication.
Yeah.
But we had to change the operation for the train that night. We couldn't go north like we usually do. We had to go south and then back up. Well, all the actors and stuff didn't get the memos. The Santas didn't get the memos. They're used to when the train starts to reverse, they pop out of their hole and, hi, we're at the North Pole. Well, this time when the train went into reverse, we're not at the North Pole. So, and, we were supposed to run 4 runs that night. Everybody showed up that night. So we were supposed to run 4 runs. We were an hour late getting out on the first run. We do the first run, we do the second run. The third run gets canceled and they bump everybody to the 4th run. We were like 2 hours late by the end of the night. It was a late night, and it was standing room only on the train on the last run. People were sitting on the floor. They packed so many people on. It was unbelievable, but we did it. So, a couple more pictures from 2022. Oh, Also, after Christmas, they decided to do an adult holiday train for 2 nights, where they, the last run each night, they allowed alcohol on the train. Santa decided to change clothes and get a little more festive there and go Bavarian. Since there was no Santa at the North Pole anymore, the terminal crew decided to get out on the North Pole and wave at the train as it went by. It was a successful event in that they sold it out. They never did it again because they figured we can make more money doing polar than that. And I think Rail Events might have scolded them for doing an alcohol train while still having Polar Express logo stuff out. But maybe. So, another picture, there's Chris Kringle, Bavarian Santa Claus there, terminal conductors. These are the people that do the ticketing and stuff. 2023, they're running another VIP train. We hadn't done too many post-COVID, so they're starting to get into that again. I don't know what the event was. Another VIP trip in October. Nice sunset shot. Moving up to 2023, Polar Express. This was after our initial safety meeting. This is actually all the car captains that worked that year. Usually there's about 9 of us working a night, so and having everybody together at once. The actors having fun, some of the car captains. Apparently she thought she was on the Titanic. There's the SPV. '24 VIP trip, some shots under the arch, across the river. 3 locomotives, I don't know why. That was a VIP trip that they did. Oh, okay, so TRA ran a train over to their yard and let passengers off, so TRA occasionally uses it to promote their operations as well. 2024 Polar Express, that was the 20th anniversary of the movie, so the mug had a 20 on it. A bunch of the car captains. Coming through the North Pole. 2025, they did a VIP trip in July. A couple of nice shots going under the arch. So, we haven't done 25 Polar Express yet, it's coming up, so that's basically the end. If anybody wants to try to charter a train for their own event and has the money to do so, it is on Union Station's website, you can get information. And then, of course, if you want to ride the Polar Express this year, last year we had 76,000 passengers that we ran. We run 3 or 4 runs a night. This year we're going through a 10th car. The 10th car will be a high-capacity commuter coach that seats 110. They're going for over 80,000 passengers this year. So it is a large event, one of the biggest in the country. So thank you, everybody. Yes, yes.
You only did your own branded run 1 year, is that right?
Correct, and they'll deny it now.
Their analysis to go back to the market, I mean, the branded Polar Express
Right.
was based on what, revenue or operation or what?
Revenue.
Okay.
It just brought in more people and, well, plus it's an organized program that works. You follow this business plan. They went off of that and it didn't work for them. So, but you know, you do pay Rail Events a commission, you pay Warner Brothers a commission. A lot of the Polar Expresses are volunteer run on, you know, tourist lines and museums. This one, they got to pay the railroad, they pay every single actor, they pay us. It's a very expensive operation for them to run. It's not a big revenue item for them. It's more of a publicity thing to bring people down there. I mean, it is a high dollar operation, but for the amount of money that they put into it, they're not really getting a huge return. But, I mean, they are making money on it, obviously, or they wouldn't be doing it, so. Yeah,
I volunteer for an excursion line in central Texas near Austin.
okay.
And somebody came up with the bright idea to do Polar Express, but they didn't contract. And then so they asked a board member who was an attorney, said, do you think we have a problem if we call our train Polar Express too?
Yes, you do.
And he said, no, I don't think so. And about 3 weeks later, he came back, yeah, you do.
Uh-huh.
We created our own book,
Yeah,
and we have elves that tie balloons, and we have Mrs. Claus. We don't give out bells, we give out a wooden whistle that the kids can blow in the car on their way home. And we call it the North Pole Flyer.
Yeah.
So we're not paying anything.
I mean, a lot of places run their own Christmas train. You know, it works for some. They decided it didn't work for them, so what we're doing. Any other questions out there, Jerry?
How long is the trip?
It's a 45-minute run, and then 30 minutes to turn the train in between. So we gotta get everybody off, get the trash off, reset the train, and reload in 30 minutes. Well, first run's 45, the rest are 30 minutes. So.
Okay.
Where's the North Pole at?
It's Biddle Street, just north of the arch a bit.
When you come off the elevator into Biddle Street.
If you know where Al's Steakhouse is,
No, not,
yeah.
Well,
Anyway, it's just north of downtown a bit. Yeah.
Do you schedule time each run for removing automobiles from the track?
No, that usually runs into a late night. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is there like a crossing wherever they seem to get stuck on the tracks, or they just sort of make their own way through?
There's a crossing going into the yard, kind of around where the Busch Stadium is area there. And there's some stables there and stuff. People, really it's for railroad use only, but some people get in there, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how often it happens. It's happened twice for Polar, so. Yeah.
How quickly do the tickets sell out, or?
They don't sell everything out. I mean, there are some nights where we have empty cars and stuff like that. I mean, they start running middle of November and run through January 30th. So in November and stuff like that, it is not packed. So, I mean, you get into weekends, they're packed solid on weekends, Fridays, Saturdays. Weeknights, there's usually some seats available, so it doesn't sell out, but I mean, we are running a lot of trains with a lot of cars. So last year, I mean, each train held 550 people, so I mean, yeah, we pack them in there. And they have different classes. They've got coach, they've got dining car, they've got dome seats, so there's different price ranges. This year, the commuter car that they're adding, it's like a $20 ticket. I don't know what they get for that, but it's a basic level. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you, everybody, and thank you for coming.